Hello children, today I am going to discuss about nutrition. Nutrition is one of the important aspects of any living organism. It is one of the important activities of any living organism. What do you mean by nutrition? Nutrition means taking enough food. In simple terms, nutrition means taking in of food. By the living organisms. Any living organism needs food. Why it needs food? Because food is a source of energy, and food also provides all the nutrients for the growth, development, repair of a body. That's why taking enough food is a very important feature of any living organism. How do organisms take food? Organisms have different ways of taking food. Now, there are mainly two types of nutrition. One is autotrophic nutrition, and the second is heterotrophic nutrition. One is autotrophic nutrition and second is heterotrophic nutrition. What does it mean? Autotrophic nutrition means preparing the food by themselves. Preparing the food by the organisms themselves. We call as auto, means self. Preparing the food by themselves. That is autotrophic nutrition. Heterotrophic nutrition means where an organism depends on another organism. Where one organism depends on another organism for its food, it is called heterotrophic nutrition. Then which organisms follow autotrophic nutrition? Which organisms are capable of preparing their own food? Green plants. All green plants are capable of preparing their own food. So that way they follow autotrophic nutrition. Whereas the animals are not capable of preparing their own food. That is why they depend on the plants for their nutrition. So all animals, they depend on the plants directly or indirectly to get their food, to get their nourishment. Alright? Now, green plants, how do they prepare food? They prepare food by a process called as photosynthesis. Green plants prepare their food by a process called as photosynthesis. What does it mean? Preparing the food in presence of sunlight. Preparing the food in the presence of sunlight. Photo means light. Synthesis means preparing. Preparing the food in presence of light. Which light? Sunlight. Is called photosynthesis. I will discuss more about autotrophic nutrition today. Now, there are four requirements for the plants to prepare food by this process photosynthesis, or what we can say, there are four raw materials. What are the raw materials for photosynthesis? First is sunlight. Most important. Second is water. Third is carbon dioxide. And fourth is chlorophyll. These are the 4 raw materials that are necessary for photosynthesis. Green plants. These, why are they green? Because they have the pigment chlorophyll. This pigment is there in the green plants. Why is this green pigment necessary? Because this green pigment chlorophyll has the ability to capture sunlight, to capture solar energy, right? So with this chlorophyll, in presence of sunlight, carbon dioxide and water combine to prepare the food. What is the food prepared? In simple terms, we say plants prepare starch. What we say? Plants prepare starch. But do they directly prepare starch? No. They first prepare glucose. They prepare glucose by the reaction of carbon dioxide with water. And that glucose is then converted into starch. See, there are simple types, there are different types of sugars. There are different types of sugars. We call them as monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. Means the sugars made up of only one molecule of sugar, like glucose, fructose, galactose. All these are called as monosaccharides. They are called monosaccharides. One simple molecule like glucose or fructose or galactose, etc. When 2 different types of sugar molecules are present in a sugar molecule, we call it as a disaccharide. We call it as a disaccharide. Like for example, sucrose or maltose. Like for example, the sugar that we use for tea, coffee, etc. It contains this sugar, right? There are 2 different types of sugars in that, 2 different sugar molecules. That is a disaccharide. Now, when different types of sugar molecules are present, then we call it as polysaccharide. What is an example of polysaccharide? 2 substances. One is starch and another is glycogen. In the plants, this glucose is converted into starch. Whereas in animals, glucose is converted into glycogen. In plants, glucose is converted to starch and stored in the leaves, right? Whereas in the animals, glucose is converted into glycogen and stored in the liver or the muscles. So these 2, starch and glycogen, are examples of polysaccharide, a complex sugar. In simple terms, you can call it as a complex sugar. Starch is a complex sugar, likewise glycogen is a complex sugar, right? Whereas glucose is the simplest form of sugar. So, by the way of photosynthesis, first glucose is prepared, then stored as starch. And the raw materials that are required for this process are sunlight, water, carbon dioxide, and chlorophyll. We can write this in form of a chemical equation. It's a chemical reaction. It is a chemical reaction. We express this, or you can show photosynthesis in the form of a simple chemical equation. We write it as CO2 plus water forms C6H12O6 plus H2O plus O2. In presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. So, in the presence of sunlight, chlorophyll will convert these two raw materials, that is carbon dioxide and water, into glucose, water and oxygen. We write it a balanced equation. When you write it in the form of a balanced equation, it will be like this. 6 CO2, 6 molecules of carbon dioxide combined with 12 molecules of water to form 1 molecule of glucose, release 6 molecules of water, that is excess of water, and 6 molecules of oxygen. This is a byproduct which goes into the atmosphere. Though we write it in the form of a simple one-step chemical reaction, it actually takes place in 2 steps. They are the light dependent reaction and the light independent reaction. The light dependent reaction and the light independent reaction means what? For one step, the photosynthesis takes place in 2 steps. One in the presence of light and another the presence or absence of light. Doesn't depend on the presence of light. It can take place even in the absence of light also. So what takes place in the presence of light is decomposition or dissociation of water molecule. Water molecule breaks up into hydrogen and oxygen. Water molecule is broken down into hydrogen and oxygen. Oxygen is given out as a byproduct. So in the next step, this hydrogen combines with carbon dioxide to form glucose. That depends on the plants. In the land plants or terrestrial plants, it's different. Again, because in case of desert plants, again the process may change. Sometimes both of them take place simultaneously or may be taking up one after the another. They may be taking up one after the another also. It depends on the type of plants. Alright? So I'll discuss this in detail in my next video. What are the raw materials? How do we show that each raw material is very important for the process of photosynthesis? Now, if we talk in the form of or in terms of the energy liberated or energy absorbed, or if we talk in the terms of exothermic or endothermic reaction, photosynthesis is called or termed as an endothermic reaction. This is an example of an endothermic. Endothermic means what? Heat is absorbed. Energy is absorbed by the leaves to prepare the food. Alright? I'll discuss more about this photosynthesis in my next class. Now, chlorophyll, we say so many minerals are required by the plant. We say 16 minerals are required. Like that, one important mineral that is present in the chlorophyll is There are so many minerals required for the plants to grow, to be healthy. But one important mineral that is required for this process, photosynthesis especially, is magnesium, which is present in this chlorophyll. Alright? That will help in the proper functioning of the plants in photosynthesis. Okay?